everybody. Today I'm going to talk about writing a literature essay. I know the thought of writing an essay can be completely overwhelming. Trust me, I have spent many an hour staring at the computer screen and not knowing what to write. My best advice is when you write an essay, think of it in parts, okay? Try not to think of it as like, oh my gosh, I have to write this essay. Think, okay, how do I write my thesis statement? And then how do I structure my body paragraphs? Break it into parts. Essay writing is in parts. The two most important parts of the essay, number one, the thesis statement, number two, the well-structured body paragraphs. This presentation is going to be a quick review on how to create that thesis statement and how to organize those body paragraphs. Always remember that being a great writer means being a great reader. You must read a story, a poem, a play numerous times before you write an essay. You have to really digest the story, and then you can start going through the steps of thinking. So in the next slides, I'm going to talk about step 1, step 2, step 3 in thinking to help you create that thesis statement. When we read a piece of literature, we need to stop and think, what is this story about? All right, even if it's a short story, a poem, or a play, or even a novel, break it down. What is the subject of the story? For example, Kate Chopin, Story of an Hour. You have Mrs. Mallard, who learns of her husband's death, goes up into her room, experiences a moment of freedom, walks out of her room, sees that her husband has not died, and then she dies. Well, what's this story about? Well, it's about the oppression of marriage. It's about a woman's sense of freedom. It's about what happens to a woman, what a woman is capable of doing, what a woman is not capable of doing. There are a lot of different topics. There are a lot of different subjects of the story. So pick, what do you want the story to be about? Do you want the story to be about marriage? Do you want the story to be about freedom? Do you want the story to be about how a woman can feel? Well, identify, what is the story about? So step 1 was to identify the topic of a story. Step 2 is when we think about the message of that topic. What are we supposed to learn about the topic? What is the story saying about the subject? Remember, an author is trying to teach us something. There's a message here. If the story is about marriage, what are we supposed to learn about marriage? Remember, reading is supposed to be a sharing experience. The author has an opinion about humanity, about the world, and our job is to figure out what the author is trying to say about his topic, okay? So remember, step 1, find the topic of the story. Step 2, find out what the author is trying to say about that topic. Step 3, what elements of fiction, poetry, or drama are used to reinforce the meaning? So we have the topic, we have the message about the topic. Now we have to figure out how the author creates that message. Does the author use symbolism? Does the author use setting, plot, point of view, rhythm, meter, structure? A lot of choices, right? So you must identify how the author conveys that message. So once you have the topic, the message about the topic, and how the author does it, you are pretty much ready to sit down and write that essay. So let's create the thesis statement. We know the topic, we know the message about the topic, and we know how the author does it. So now we just have to create that one sentence that puts it all together in a beautiful ball. So for example, James Joyce uses character and symbols to convey the idea that disappointment is inevitable. I know the topic of this story. It's about disappointment. I believe that the story is saying something about disappointment, that it's saying that disappointment is inevitable. Now, how does James Joyce do that? He uses symbols and character. So I have a direction for my paper. My paper has clear focus, and I know exactly what my body paragraphs have to do. Remember, body paragraphs have to have certain things, have to have certain points. First, a body paragraph must have a topic sentence. A body paragraph must use specific quotes. A body paragraph must put those quotes into context prior to quoting. And then the paragraph must analyze those quoted words very carefully. Okay? Remember, a body paragraph, you have to have certain things in the body paragraph in order for the body paragraph to be complete. So remember, body paragraphs have to have clear structure. Every body paragraph has to have certain elements. The first thing that a body paragraph must have is a topic sentence. The reader must be able to know where the writer is going in the paragraph, all right? What is the paragraph going to be about? So if we use the thesis statement from the previous slide, I know that the paper is going to talk about symbols and character in James Joyce's story, all right? Well, one paragraph has to be about symbols and one paragraph has to be about character. So a sample topic sentence might be, James Joyce uses symbols of the Catholic Church to highlight a negative view on organized religion. So this paragraph would then have to connect back to this idea of disappointment being inevitable, that the Catholic Church, the symbols being used about the Catholic Church convey this idea that organized religion is futile and that it only leads to disappointment. All right. So again, you're tying this all back together. You're tying that paragraph point back to the thesis statement. So what does it mean to place a quote into context? Well, you have to have a quote sandwich. There have to be words before the quote and there have to be words after the quote. First, you have to put the words that you're about to quote into context. You must think about your reader as someone who may or may not have read your piece of literature. So what's going on before the quote? What's happening? You have to give a little bit of background information so that the reader can follow along, can understand the words that are about to be quoted. So you really have to give the reader enough background information in order for the quote to make sense. One more time, try to think of it like the reader has never read the piece of literature you're discussing. Put everything into context. What do you have to put after the quote? Well, this is the juicy part. This is the best part of the paragraph. This is the analysis. This is where you really show off your thinking. This is how you show off the way you read those words, okay? Think of it like this. After the quote, you have to have certain things, certain elements. You have to answer certain questions. Number one, what do the words literally mean? Reword that quote. Pretend the quote is in a foreign language and your reader cannot understand that foreign language. Walk the reader through how to read the quote. Second, you have to tell me what the words imply. A lot of words have connotations and denotations. Well, the connotations are the juicy part. What is the feeling of that word? What's implied in that word? For example, the word water. Well, we all know what the word water literally means, but what's the connotation? I think the word water might mean something different to you than it does to me. To me, water means safety. It means happiness. It means calmness because I love water. As soon as I am immersed in water, I am a happier person. I love swimming. So for me, that connotation is very happy. In a story that you're reading, if there's a reference to water, well, is the character drowning? Is this fear? Or is the character, being born? Think about what is implied with the words. So, back up. Number one, reword all quotes. Have a sentence or two that literally walks me through what those words say. Number two, discuss what's implied in those words. And finally, why are those words significant? How do those quoted words prove your point? How do those words prove your paragraph point and ultimately the thesis statement? Okay? So, what do the words literally mean? What do the words imply? Why are they significant? And how do those words prove your topic sentence as well as your thesis statement? Okay, let's review. What are the keys to creating strong papers? First, you have to have a strong thesis statement. That thesis statement has to tell me, the reader, what the story is about, what the story is saying about the subject, and then how the author conveys that message. You have to have all three of those elements inside that thesis statement. Number two, you have to have well-structured body paragraphs. Remember, a body paragraph must have a topic sentence. The paragraph must put all quotes into context. All quotes must be clearly quoted with page number or line number if it's a poem. Then finally, analysis. Boy, this is the best part. This is the part that the teacher loves to read. We want to read how you read those quoted words. Okay, this is the part of the paragraph that is very individual and it's so interesting for us to read. We want to read how you read those words. Okay, so I hope you guys can maybe rewatch or re-listen to this PowerPoint because I'm looking forward to reading some really strong essays.